We're still here. We're still here. 2 more years, and we're still here. We're going to be here 2 years from now. We're going to be here 4 years from now, 6 years from now. Sketchup version 17 is going to be fantastic. No idea. Yeah. So welcome to the very first Trimble Sketchup 3D Basecamp in all time. This is the biggest Basecamp we've ever had by like 50%. Thank you so much for coming and joining us here. We're really proud of this. This was the first Basecamp I ever organized. Do we have Dusty in the audience? Where's Dusty? Dusty was our event guy at SketchUp and then at Google for years. And he would do these events, and they would be fantastic. And I'd be, you know what? Event stuff is so easy. That Dusty guy, he must come to work at 12, and he could probably do work in a lawn chair. Anyway, Dusty stayed at Google. He didn't make the jump with us because he wasn't cool enough. And so I said, yeah, I can do Basecamp. That's easy, right? I'll just do Basecamp on the weekends, no problem, and it'll be fine. Anyway, so there's going to be a few glitches because yours truly is in charge. So we're going to be doing things like looking through my hard drive. There's going to be little things. Put your hand up if you don't have a badge yet. I'm so sorry about that. What happened was we put the strings on and they got out of alphabetical order and we just weren't able to get everybody in time. But we have a few minutes at lunch. You can try and grab your badge. And if not, when we leave here around 3:45 today, you can stand back there and we can get you your badge then too. If you don't get your badge then, you can get your badge at the party tonight. So no worries. Is that cool with everybody? All right. Okay. So we have about... 380 people? No, 280 people here today. This is so exciting. Our older ones, we would max out at 200 people. The thing is that when the conference was completely free for everybody said they were coming, and then they wouldn't show up. So we made a little bit of a fee, and then people actually come. So we said this is how many people were going to come, and lo and behold, they actually showed up. It's very exciting. Charging people money is more than income. It's more like an RSVP. Terrific. Let's go through this. So this is the wireless network you can use if you like, BT Public. Eat at George's is the password. I'm going to come back to this slide in a little bit, but I'll leave it up for a moment. Let's go through the schedule for the conference just a little bit so we know what's going on. Okay. Everybody, you don't yet have a badge around your neck necessarily, but when you do, you'll find a copy of this on the badge. So it's a good thing I have it on the slide too. But let's look through this. We're going to spend the first hour here this morning hearing from John Backus, who's our product manager. We're going to hear from Bryn Fosberg, who's our vice president, reporting all the way up to the CEO. We all basically report to Bryn, and then Bryn's up. It was kind of Bryn's idea to buy SketchUp at Trimble, and honestly, he's a huge proponent. He knows what we do. He knows why he bought us. He knows why we're here. And he's going to get up and talk a little bit about the Trimble vision for SketchUp. And then we're just going to get the directors plus Bryn up here on stage to take your questions for the remainder of the hour. So line them up. Okay? Don't hold back. If you have things that you'd like to say, you're more than welcome to do it. I don't know if we have a wireless mic to float around, but if we don't, then say your question and I'll repeat it, and then people can say what they're doing, okay? After that, everybody's going to go up, and we're just going to grab box lunches from the back, okay? And then you're going to come back, and you're going to sit at your seat, and we're going to eat through the rest of the presentations. After that, we've got something called the Rendering Roundup. We've got 7 different rendering solution products who are going to get up and spend 5 minutes each talking about the sort of salient point, what makes them different, why you should use them. Probably you should try them all and pick your favorite. Then we're going to have a product showcase. That's 4 different awesome SketchUp plugin sort of extension or extensibility story things that are going to come and present. We've got a little break. Then we've got our keynote presentation from Bree Pettis. Hands up if you've been just a little bit curious about 3D printing. We have the guru of 3D printing, the guy whose dream was to say, you know what, we're going to put a 3D printer on every desk in every, I don't know what he imagines, dining room, kitchen, living room, garage, wherever it belongs, right? It probably depends on the kind of house you have. But basically, we're going to put one in every house. This was more or less Bree and his associates' idea, and we have him here today, which is so exciting. After that, we're going to dive into the unconference pitches. Hands up if you don't know what an unconference is. few people. So an unconference is totally structured effing mayhem. It's fantastic. This is what happens, okay? We have some things that we know we want to talk about, and those people know who they are. Other people are welcome to come up here and take the mic and spend no more than 1 minute. After a minute, I hit you with a hockey stick to the back of the head. You spend a minute telling us what you want to talk about, and then either what you want to present about or what you just want to have a discussion about. And then tomorrow, during those unconference session blocks, everybody see that? Unconference blocks 1 through 3, and then 4 through 6 down here? That's when we just break out into sessions and we talk about those things. So the schedule for that is going to be published tomorrow morning. We're going to schedule it today, we'll publish the schedule tomorrow, and then it becomes an incredibly off-the-cuff thing. Tonight's party, we're going to meet over at Absinthe House between 6 and 7, something like that. The big highlight there is something called Sketchup Pictionary, or the Sketchup Shootout. We're going to have 2 screens and 2 computers. You will challenge someone, maybe someone you like, maybe someone you don't like, to a Sketchup Shootout. You will each have the same term to draw. Maybe it's a famous building. Maybe it's something more esoteric like malaise to draw in SketchUp, and the first person to get people to guess in the audience wins an extra drink at the party. So another thing you have on your badge is your drink tickets. You definitely need a badge. Don't lose your badge, because the badge is the thing that's going to keep you happy tonight. Right there. Very important to you. I'll go over the schedule for tomorrow a little bit later on, but I think we're ready to kick off. Let's see what time it is right now. What do we have? We have 10:38. I am right on schedule. Big hand for me, right on schedule. All right. I'm going to actually keep people clapping. You're going to be clapping like all the time. It's sort of my MO. This is exactly how it works. I picked my red shoes today. It's going to be totally, yeah, exactly, clapping. Great. I'm wearing skinny jeans, even though I'm not the sort of person who should. Thank you. Okay. Let's try and pull up a little presentation here. By the way, I was presenting in layout. Oh, hands up if you use layout. 3 cheers for layout. Layout is fantastic now, and guess what? It's going to happen at Trimble. It's going to be fantastic. Let's open a new browser. Now you get to, this is the fun part where you get to see what's on my computer. Very exciting. Okay, 3D Basecamp. This is going to be John's, I'm offline. Perfect. Okay, let's get online. That's awesome. Okay, everybody get offline. Everybody get offline. Stop Facebooking, stop tweeting, stop updating. OMG, I'm so excited. Basecamp, get off. Get off. You're paying attention to us now. Get offline, and then we'll be able to get online. It's going to be great. Everybody offline? Everybody offline, or this is a hostage situation, and nobody gets to go home until we get online. Let's try it. Oops, no, I didn't want Billy Breakthrough. What's it called? My Omar. So we have a wireless hotspot. That's exciting. Jump up here, Omar. All right, big hand for Omar. Has just rescued the day. We've got a wireless signal here.
What's my password?
What's my password? That's perfect. It's probably Omar123. Okay, you got it? Look at that. What's that? Is that a good symbol?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for? Okay, let's try this. Bum, 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 bum. All right. Okay. Is it going to work? Okay. Let's start presentation.
It's probably going to work. Why wouldn't it work?
You going to be good? Well, maybe something will show up. All right. Do you need a mic, John? You need a mic, don't you? Let's take that right there.
Over here.
AV folks, this is mic number 1. Let's haul that over there. Let's put this here. Good. Do you want to talk right into it just like that?
Sure, that's fine.
Here we go.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody.
John. This is John Backus, our product manager. He's responsible for everything good and bad in your world. Take it away, John.
So thanks for coming. I have been amazed. Last night I was over at the Baker Street Pub. Did I break that? Is this better? Is this better? Okay. So I was over at the Baker Street Pub last night, and I ran into people who have been to counting this one, 4 Basecamps. How many of you in the audience? 4th time, Lewis? This is great. I mean, coming to one of these events for us is fantastic too. I mean, I know it's fun for you guys, but we love having a chance to get in front of all of you and hear about all the things we've screwed up and, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, what it is that we're doing here, what we think SketchUp is about, and where we're headed next. So there's a couple of things that I think we all know to be true about SketchUp. Number one, it's simple, and simple is really powerful. That's an important point for SketchUp. Also, SketchUp isn't expensive. How many of you bought SketchUp, and how many of you are using SketchUp for free? Yeah, okay. So even those of you that paid for SketchUp, it's not an expensive application. It's easy to get from that perspective as well. Also, SketchUp is really for getting real work done. It's not for kind of pretending that you're doing work. It's for actually getting stuff done. And I think we build it with that in mind. And fourth point, it's really flexible. And we built it that way. We want SketchUp to be something that you can grab and turn into whatever you want it to be. If you need a left-handed swivel driver and we didn't write that tool, we may never write that tool. How many of you need a left-handed swivel driver? Yeah? Okay. So you can build that using our APIs. We're very proud of how well that's worked. So I'll be talking about some of those things. And ultimately, SketchUp is 3D for everyone. We've been talking about this for years now, and it's amazing. It's proven to be true. We think, and not everybody reports their numbers quite as transparently as we do, but we think that SketchUp is the most widely used application for 3D modeling on the planet. We register, we log activations of the product every time you guys start SketchUp. We get a little anonymous ping to a logging server, and so we can count those and we can dedupe them so we know that the same person hasn't started, has started it a couple of times. Anyway, 2.2 million unique activations in just the last week. That's a lot of 3D modeling. I mean, it's really a lot. 30 million in the last year, over the last 12 months. So we think that SketchUp has really expanded the world of people that are thinking in 3D, designing in 3D, solving problems in 3D. And really, people are doing amazing things with SketchUp every day. But you already know that because you're here, and you're those people. You're doing those amazing things. So what you're probably wondering is what's new, right? What are we doing? Well, this is new. So how many of you have heard of Trimble before? Yeah? See, that's great. Trimble is a huge company doing some really amazing things. And I know that you guys want to hear from somebody at Trimble, so we brought the man himself, Bryn Fosberg. Bryn is formerly our sector VP and reports to Steve Bergland, the CEO of Trimble. And he's the guy who really thought up the idea of bringing SketchUp inside of Trimble. And he's got a few words that he wants to say. And I know he wants to hear questions from everybody as well. But I think we're going to save those up for the end. We'll all be up on stage and we'll answer anything you want. So, Bryn Fosberg.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? I'm a little technology challenged, guys. Can you hear? There we go. So good morning. Welcome to Boulder. As soon as I walked in this morning, the first thing Tom Wyman said to me is, "Why did you dress up like a grown-up?" So the reason, by the way, is my 27-year-old daughter who lives in South Africa came home and got married. So for anybody who's ever had to go through a wedding, I'm so happy it's over, but when she called me when I was coming to the theater this morning, she said, "Dad, it's almost as much work before the wedding and after the wedding," because she has to say goodbye to everybody. So we've been going to all these different goodbye parties during the course of the week. So I apologize for being late, and I apologize for dressing up as a grown-up to answer Tom's question. Trimble Navigation. So who is Trimble? We were formed in 1978. Actually, our founder, Charlie Trimble, worked for HP Labs at that time. And working for HP Labs, he developed a GPS board. He was very involved with GPS, and I think we all are very familiar with the GPS technology. HP at that time said, we don't see a business in GPS, so we're not going to continue with GPS. And so Charlie Trimble actually bought that patent for about $100,000, and that's how he started Trimble. So for people who are familiar with Los Altos, we all worked out of a little theater in Los Altos, and we did everything from firmware development to sales to service to support to sanding the sheet metal as we built the GPS receivers. Today, we're about a $2 billion company. We've done 66 acquisitions in the last 12 years. Our founder left the company in 1997, 1998, and our new CEO, Steve Bergland, came in at that time. Trimble now today is much more than a GPS company. Still have a significant hardware focus. So we build hardware, and then we have firmware and software that goes around it. But we actually have more software developers today than we have hardware developers. So most of us who grew up in the company grew up very much in the hardware end of the business as firmware engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. However, there's a much stronger software component today than there was 30-some years ago. Some of our acquisitions go back to the early 1900s, so even though we say we were formed in 1978, we acquired an optics business in Germany called Zeiss, which has been around since the early 1900s. So we have employees with length of service much longer than the entire Trimble company is. We're public on the NASDAQ. TRMB is our trading symbol. We look at 5 major industries are kind of where our focus markets is. One is agriculture. Second is what we call land information or cadastral surveying. So that's the demarcation of land for basically sale or development. So that's our second market. And third is transportation and logistics. So today we have, you see the big over-the-road truckers that are going from one state to another. They have positioning on those trucks as well as a connection to some type of back office to look at fuel efficiency, to look at fuel tax, to look at routing efficiency. That's our third franchise. Then our fourth franchise is building and construction, and fifth is heavy civil. And heavy civil is the building of roads, railways, airports, all of that kind of junk. I'm responsible for the 2 construction sectors, the building construction and the heavy construction. I'm a civil engineer by training, and my background is very much on the construction side of the business. So why did Trimble acquire Sketchup? Many people have asked that. Today in our building construction realm, today we have a software components as well as hardware components for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing trades. We have a structural design product called Tekla, which comes out of Helsinki. And we have general construction products for the designs of roadways, railways, airports, mines. So we had that piece, but what we were missing was architecture. And we felt we needed to have the architectural component. In the past, we integrated with other architectural packages, and actually how we became familiar with SketchUp is we were talking with Google on how could we potentially integrate better with SketchUp with some of our design and construction products. So we believed we needed the architectural piece of that building continuum, because our vision is to go from concept all the way to construction. So for those of you familiar with the manufacturing process of lean manufacturing, we really look at a lean construction process to be able to go directly from concept out into the machine if we're building a road or railway, or out to the building of a building. And we felt that the architectural piece was something we needed. And that's the primary reason for acquiring SketchUp. The other reason is we wanted to look at it as a platform. So you look at the user community, many of which you are involved with as either developers or users of SketchUp. We wanted to see on how we use SketchUp as a platform along with 3D Warehouse, along with Layout, to be able to build other solutions for these other markets that I talked about, whether it be agriculture, whether it be heavy civil, whether it be transportation. So we bought SketchUp for focus on architecture to better reach this vision from concept to construction, and then also built it acquired SketchUp for the platform of how do we build a platform for the different markets. So those are the key reasons. From a SketchUp perspective, a lot of people ask what's happened to the SketchUp team. How has Trimble changed the SketchUp team? I think it's important for you to talk to the SketchUp team to get that. You know, I grew up in Trimble. Trimble's all I've known. I don't know what all their feelings are. So you're with them over the course of the few days. Ask them. Get a view. They should be very transparent. I'm sure there's lots of things they don't like about us, and hopefully a lot of things they do like about us. More importantly, SketchUp has changed Trimble. One is I've learned more about dogs in the workplace than I ever would have known. And there's this thing called bark.com, and I know more about that than I ever want to know. But we really looked at, again, Trimble started in a very hardware-focused area and moved then to add software capability primarily through acquisition. And software development is much different than from a hardware development. And so for us, we really have looked at how does SketchUp transform Trimble. And I think whether it be something as little as dogs in the workplace, those kind of things will help Trimble become more flexible and also help Trimble become more focused on the end user. They're a wonderful team. A large portion of the team came over from Google to go with Trimble. Today we have a significant number of requisitions open, so Trimble is investing and will continue to invest. They're not moving from Boulder, so there's no myth of them moving from Boulder. The office is just up the road. I signed a 5-year lease. So for sure they're not moving in 5 years, but Trimble is very committed. We have offices in 33 locations around the world, I think. I have multiple offices in Denver. I have one in Westminster. I have one down in the tech center. So Trimble's very open and flexible from that piece. So they'll continue in Boulder. We're hiring recs. Our investment's going to be very focused on architecture. We're going to put investment into layout. So you're going to see I think significant amount of resources, a significant amount of functionality be added to the product in the upcoming years. What about the free version? I have every analyst in the world ask me about the free version. We will continue it. I actually think the free version really drove the ease of use in SketchUp in many ways. So we're very supportive of that free version. However, you will see differentiation between the free version and the pro versions as that goes forward. And when I say pro versions, again, there's going to be a version that focuses very much on architecture, but there may be versions that focus on this heavy civil market or some of the other markets that Trimble participates in today. Trimble is extremely dealer-friendly. The majority of Trimble's business goes through a distribution network. So I think for those of you who are distributors in this audience, Trimble has made its way through a distribution network worldwide. And I've met with some of the distributors just since the acquisition. I'll continue to meet with more. But Trimble is very focused, very committed to a distribution model. For you, those of you as distributors in the room, it may give you an opportunity of a greater portfolio of products through Trimble that you can distribute. As far as developer network, still going to maintain flexible API. Those of you who are developers, I think Trimble offers you a business opportunity in many of these other different markets that we participate in. And we've already today connected some of the network developers with some of the different businesses within Trimble to build plugins specific for those businesses. So from a distribution perspective, I think there's opportunity. I think from a developer network perspective, there's opportunity. And you for customers, you as end users, I think you're going to see the SketchUp team grow. I think I have to have Tyler tell me, but I think I have 10 open recs. My biggest problem at the moment is filling them. So if you know anybody, use this network to help get us resumes. If we need to add more, we'll add more. We're very committed to add resources to this group. As John mentioned, we're going to have a discussion after this talk. I really encourage you to have a dialogue. If you have questions or you want myths answered or you're concerned about Trimble or you're concerned about where SketchUp would go, this is a good time to ask. So thank you very much.
I think I'm okay with this one. So thanks, Bryn. Bryn and the rest of the Trimble team have been really fantastic. We've gotten an incredible welcome, and I'm going to add a little bit of color to what Bryn was talking about. How's it been for us at Trimble? As Bryn said, most of the development team came over from Google to Trimble. It wasn't even a hard decision for most of us. It was kind of an easy decision. And a lot of the people that came across have been working on SketchUp for 10 years or more. It's really the old Atlas software team, by and large, came over. And we're staying in Boulder. How many of you in the audience are actually from Boulder? There's a couple of you, I know, right? So as you know, and if you don't believe me, ask these guys, it's true, Boulder is the geographic center of, in fact, not just the world, but the whole universe. It's here. So we like to be close to the heart of things, and that's it for us. We have some great new peers, particularly in the building construction parts of Trimble. Tekla. How many of you have heard of Tekla before? Maybe used? Yeah. Great software, great team, very powerful stuff, and there are peers now, and many others in that area. And we are staffing up the team. Bryn is absolutely right. That's our biggest challenge right now, is finding more bright people to fill seats in our office. And here's our office. So one thing we absolutely have is we have some smiles. Is Sandra here? Sandra, are you here? I'm curious.
Just picking up paper clips for the badges.
Okay, so I'm going to have to speculate that Sandra is still smiling at this moment. She may be grumpy because of the paperclip thing. Anyhow, that's our temporary office, and as you can see, we've filled it up with pictures from all of you guys, and please, keep them coming. That's been really great. We are in a temporary office with the blue arrow, in case you missed that. We're moving to a new office, a permanent office, and we'll be in there. We don't know for sure. We just got our building permit, but let's say before the end of the year. We do have a coffee machine, which is really important for our development process. I'm going to speculate that, in fact, this is more important than our build farm, but there may be people who argue that point. And this is what it looks like out the window from our new office. So we have mountains. So it's fantastic. All the key elements for doing good graphic software development. I maintain that you can't develop graphic software in ugly places. But that's kind of academic, I guess. What you'd really probably like to hear about is what we've been doing, new development projects. So here I just sort of threw up a timeline of the releases that we've done since the last time we got together. And we've called all of them maintenance releases, but there's actually been some pretty good stuff in there, and I hope you haven't missed it. Is everybody on the latest version of SketchUp, which at this point would be SketchUp 8 Maintenance Release 4? Hands up. So that's good. It's always a good idea to stay on the latest release, because we release little things here and there, and we make it faster, we fix some bugs. Anyway, along the way, and I'm not going to bore you with the details, but, we fixed the shadow bug. Did that affect anybody? Yeah. We've done a lot of stuff with Ruby toolbars, and I'll be talking more about that in a minute. We changed the way that Ruby plugins can be installed, dramatically simplified that in one of these maintenance releases. We got 98%, 92% compliance on the Collada certification. How many of you are using Collada for asset exchange now? Not a lot. It's a great format, and we probably have the most compliant Collada importer and exporter on the market at this point. We were very rigorous about going through the standard test suite, and anyway, that's been released. So what you can see is a pattern of kind of little things launched, right? So I'm here to say we are not announcing SketchUp 9 today. It's good to just clear the air on that one. But the truth is that we're sort of thinking differently about the way we're doing releases now, and I think you're going to see more little things coming out when they're ready. And I want to announce as well that we're going to switch to a regular annual release cycle. And this is something that many of you have asked for. And I think before we sort of developed until we thought it was pretty good, and then we would release that, and we come out pretty randomly. So what we're going to do instead is we're just going to say once a year there'll be a new version. So the next version you'll see is going to be SketchUp 2013. Okay? The thing is, the SketchUp team does a lot more than just the SketchUp client software development these days. I should also mention that this happened. How many of you have seen this picture before? Anybody? This is what it looks like to acquire a software product. When you get right down to it, this happened. All of SketchUp source code went onto a hard drive, actually onto a computer. You can see it under the gentleman's arm there. It got put in the back of a car and driven down the highway and plugged in at Trimble. I mean, this totally happened, right? But if you think about it, this is the way these things have to happen. Anyhow, so we've been spending quite a bit of time since the acquisition closed, just moving stuff into boxes and out of boxes and plugging things in and turning them on again and making sure the blinky lights still blink and making sure SketchUp builds, which is kind of important. So that takes a surprising amount of work. But we've been doing some other stuff too. So 3D Warehouse, some people haven't been clear about this, but 3D Warehouse, it was included in the acquisition by Trimble. It is now a Trimble-owned property, but it's still being operated by Google until we're able to kind of stand up a new version of 3D Warehouse. So we're doing that. And if anybody out there is interested in being a developer on 3D Warehouse, we're hiring. However, we did recently launch something called the Sketchup Showcase, which looks like this. How many of you have seen that? Hands up. Okay, so we're probably going to be talking about this a little bit more over the next couple of days. One thing that it includes that's really cool, and let me not click through there because that's a bad idea. Help. One of the things that the showcase includes is a 3D model viewer. So let me find a good one here. How about, I don't know, surprise me. So if you see this little icon here, that indicates that there is a 3D model to be found under the hood. Now I'm in the Chrome web browser here. If you see this little icon down here, that indicates that there's a 3D model, and we'll just give it a second. How many of you have seen this actually? Not that many. So we didn't make a lot of noise about it. It launched just before the acquisition closed, and I think, there were a lot of other things to talk about. But this is actually using WebGL. It's rendering a SketchUp model, and it's rendering it without plugins. So anybody who's using, in this case, Chrome, will be able to see this model, and it's totally going to work, because what could go wrong in a live demo in front of 280 some odd people, right? So we have a special offer for those of you who are here at Basecamp. We're only doing this for Basecamp attendees, but if you give us a model that we want to put in our user showcase, we will give you in return a little snippet of code, a little embed tag that you can use to put that model, or the 3D viewer of that model, on the website of your choice. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more after the deal here. Oh, hey! I told you it was going to work. So you can use all your regular SketchUp tools, cameras, zooms, all that sort of stuff. It looks like a SketchUp model. Anyway, so we think there's a lot of depth in the web as a development platform. Obviously, we picked up a little bit of something at Google, and so you should be expecting to see more things like this as we work on 3D Warehouse some more. Where's my slides? Okay, let's try this again. Okay. Smiles, coffee, mountains, new development, moving to code, 3D Warehouse. Okay. So as Bryn mentioned, we do think of SketchUp as a platform these days, almost more than we think about it as a client application. And it's certainly a client application and used by huge numbers of people all over the place to do great things. But we really are increasingly thinking about it as a component of a much larger ecosystem of developer products. And this is sort of the pieces that we think about. There's the Ruby API, there's our dynamic components, the 3D warehouse is a kind of part of that platform. We have our SDK if you have an application that needs to read or write SketchUp files. And here's an interesting statistic over there on the side. You can see that we've actually measured through our log files, we know that 45% of SketchUp Pro users have at least one third-party Ruby plugin installed. And that's a staggering number, and it's an indication that the Ruby developer ecosystem built on SketchUp has been a huge success. Yeah, absolutely. So what we've noticed is that there's been this sort of Cambrian explosion of Ruby development. And over the last few years, we just developed a kind of laissez-faire attitude, and we sort of said, you know what, build whatever you want. Let's see what happens. And you did. But as a result, there's a little bit of chaos out there as well. How many of you have run into a little bit of chaos? Go ahead. You're among friends. You can admit it. There's a lot of chaos over there. So, the chaos manifests in a couple of ways. There are unruly toolbars that just won't stay put despite our best efforts and your best efforts, and they just won't stay put. There's an awkward install process. It's really confusing for beginners. You have to remember to copy a script with a certain kind of a name to this directory, and it's different on the Mac than it is on Windows, and also on Thursdays sometimes it's different, but I can't explain why. So anyway, that's a problem. And it's difficult to find Ruby scripts or great new plugins. We recognize that's an issue too. And fundamentally, from our perspective, we see this all the time. A huge number of crashes that are reported in the SketchUp core application come from some unruliness in the SketchUp, in the Ruby code. So we're keen to help some of that if we can. So a couple of things that we've been thinking about that we can do. First of all, let's simplify the install. We did that recently. How many of you have now installed a Ruby extension, an RBZ file? It was easier, right? Yeah, okay. We also built in some new hooks in our API that make it easier for folks that want to build repositories or plugin sites to help people discover plugins and install them. But there's a couple more things that I think we can do. So developer tools are not great in SketchUp. Maybe we can help with that. And we're beginning to think that maybe our team ought to participate a little bit more in some of the community open source development projects that have grown up around SketchUp. Thanks. So this will be an experiment for us, but let's start at the top. So first of all, we're releasing this today. This is a new developer console, a replacement to the Ruby console. All right. Okay. If you need this, you know you need it. If you don't, you know that somebody who needs it needs it. Okay, so there are a number of Ruby events happening over the next days here. This will be discussed in there, so if you have questions about that. It was implemented 100% in Ruby and JavaScript. It's built to be extended and changed in whatever ways the community thinks are most appropriate. It has a couple of key features that we think people want, like the ability to put in multiple lines of input and execute them all at once. You can change the font, you can change the color. because Ruby development works much better if you have like hot pink 6-point type on an orange background. Am I right? Yeah, okay. You can output to a log file, and I think it'll help you with some debugging, some other things. Okay, second piece that we're going to release actually today. This is a testing tool that we call TestUp. We've been using it internally for years to run automated tests against SketchUp. Test-driven development is a practice that we picked up at Google, and it's an enormously effective way to build code that's more solid and doesn't crash. So you can write standard unit tests in Ruby. You can run them inside of SketchUp in an automated way. You can run the same tests that we use internally, so you can tell what we know about when things go wrong. And also, this gives you access as a developer to absolutely the best way to report a bug against SketchUp. If you can write a little unit test that proves something's broken, easy for us to fix it from that point going forward, okay? So we're keen to do that. So what about code sharing? In honor of Bree coming here and all of our great new friends at MakerBot, we thought maybe we should try to engage our developer community in a project that is important to people in the 3D printing world. So we've started an experiment. And we're going to build an STL importer and exporter for SketchUp. Now, happy birthday, Bree. We're here for you, man. Well, now you can file those bugs on GitHub. So what we did was we found 2 Ruby extensions, plugins, that already existed in the plugin community, one of them by Jim Foltz, another by Nathan Braunham and Conrad Schroeder from the Guitar List user group. I think they make electric guitars. You should go there. So anyway, one of them had written an importer and one of them had written an exporter. So what we did was we just sort of adopted that. We got in contact with those guys. We got their permission. They're now part of this project. But we started from their extensions. We put them up on GitHub. We've done some testing. We packaged them up as easy to install files. We did a little cleanup in the code. We moved some stuff around in the UI to rationalize a little bit more. And then it's all up on GitHub. It's released under the Apache license. And anybody who would like can contribute there. This is what it looks like. Looks exactly like SketchUp. Okay, it's a little different than SketchUp. But we'll be talking about this more in the Ruby tracks as well. We welcome involvement from anybody in the room or outside of the room or whatever who's just interested in STL. And we sort of are going to think of ourselves as shepherds through this process and just try to make sure that at the end of the day there's something usable that comes out of it. We have also on this same site put up the developer console, so that's now open sourced as well as the TestUp testing framework. Those are also open sourced as of today. They're all up on GitHub, and you're welcome to contribute however you like. So, what's next for SketchUp? I think it's worth emphasizing a couple of points. SketchUp will still be available for free. You've heard that now from me, from Bryn. You've seen it on the web. You've seen it in a lot of places. We think there's great value in the exposure that the free SketchUp user community have brought, and all the exciting stuff that's going on there. So SketchUp will still be available for free, and it will always be affordable for professionals. Even as we move into these new markets and we spend more time thinking about architecture, maybe we move into some other areas that are important to Trimble, being affordable is a big part of what makes SketchUp usable. That will continue. We're never going to make SketchUp more complex than it has to be. So I'm sorry, those of you who need a left-handed swivel driver, we're not going to build that tool. So what we're going to build is the simple stuff. We're going to keep it clean and streamlined as much as we can. And I got to tell you, that gets harder and harder as the application gets older. It's used by a wider range of people for all kinds of diverse things. But that's our mission. We're going to keep it as simple as we can. We'll obviously continue to develop tools for our third-party developers, because that's the flip side of being simple. If we can make this shark of an application that's absolutely targeted at simple and fast, people need other tools. So the API helps us to make sure those people get what they need as well. We will always continue to make SketchUp faster and faster and faster. How many of you would like a multi-core 64-bit version of SketchUp? I speculate that what you'd really like is a fast version of SketchUp. Is that right? Yeah. So we always do that. We will always continue to do that. I can't tell you what technology we will or won't use, but every release of SketchUp is faster than the one from before. We're going to continue to pay attention to, obviously, architects, our core user base. They're important at Trimble as well. But all the other groups of people that have built professions and careers on top of SketchUp, we know you're out there, and we want to make sure you have the tools that you need. But at the same time, we're going to continue also to support the everyone else use cases for SketchUp. That long tail of crazy, zombie killing machine designers and all of that stuff is also part of what makes SketchUp fantastic. So, you're on the radar too. Last thing, I'm going to just emphasize it again, we are hiring. In Trimble, I've made considerable investment in us and our team and our future, and we are growing. So keep that in mind. And thanks. Thanks for coming to Basecamp.